both the three of us were talking at different times about some of the stories that you're hearing, and you know, some people are making different decisions right now. They're flourishing, they're pivoting, they're putting some different, you know, spins on what they've done. Do you mind, you know, Dan, you know, I want to hit real quick. You talked about a photographer with me. I just think that's a great story. Would you mind sharing that, and, you know, how that went along?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, this is just kind of a neat story from here in Vermont. This is somebody who has done work for us through the Smith Family Business Initiative, and when this all sort of started, you know, this is a photographer who primarily works as a solo entrepreneur. I mean, instantly saw 3 weeks and, you know, now more than a month worth of business completely just vaporized, you know, just virtually no work. I mean, he does mostly event and wedding photography. He's very successful at what he does, but, you know, those events are not happening. And I think what was inspiring about this particular story, and I kind of keep coming back to it, is, you know, what do you do in that situation? You have nothing to do. Your cash flow has suddenly hit zero. And what was interesting, he said, you know, I want to be able to at least do something, contribute to my community in some way. And so he put out through his community listserv an offer to take family portraits from a safe social distance. He actually got some pushback from people, you know, saying you shouldn't be doing this, but he actually had support of, you know, several kind of local politicians that he was doing this safely. And what was interesting as this sort of evolved, and this was not the direction he thought it would go, he ended up with nearly 150 families responding to this offer. He would ride around, sometimes on his bike, pull up in the front, take you know, photographs either on their porch, in their driveway, or somewhere in the yard. And he just started posting these to his website and to his social accounts. They became so popular that the state of Vermont caught wind of this and reached out to him. And now he's actually working with the State Historical Society in an archival project to sort of document life during the pandemic in Vermont. That work has now expanded at the request of the state to include many of these, you know, restaurants and eateries that are doing curbside service. So, you know, another area where you can go and take pictures from a safe social distance. It's now including the work that a lot of the schools are doing, because the schools are still providing lunches and meals. And so it's expanded beyond the point of, you know, what he initially thought. It has created, you know, great amount of goodwill. I'm sure ultimately it will lead to more business for him when this all, you know, begins to open up again. But, you know, one interesting aspect is, you know, the potential for new business, but in a different way. So now he's actually thinking about shifting his operation, possibly publishing a book, as well as maybe being more of a documentary or you know, historical photographer. And so, you know, I use that example because it's, you know, I think that business owners have a bias for action. You know, when you're faced with, you know, just the, you know, the way that this hit us almost immediately, what do you do in those situations? And in his case, he had a lot of time to think, a lot of, you know, room to operate, and he took action in that regard. So, you know, for some business owners, you know, they're hit with much more businesses like Stewart's and Burns Dairy. You know, we're seeing them, you know, a lot of our food companies are, and Wegmans, you know, they're going through the roof right now. But other businesses, you know, they just saw a lot of business evaporate. So, you know, what do you do when you suddenly have that amount of white space and time to operate? And I think, you know, this is just a great example of having a bias for action, wanting to do something, and, you know, possibly, you know, leading to a very different part of his business after this alleviates.
Love it. That's a great example. Tim.
Well, as funny as I was listening to Dan talk, one of the things that I've seen business owners doing, it's what I'm trying to do, is, quote, meet people where they are today, which means they're stuck at home. They're having to interact with their families probably way more than they have in a long time. And they're looking for outlets, or they're looking for help to do that. And one business owner, she comes from a family of serial entrepreneurs, and she owns several of these indoor cycling studios. And they're obviously all completely shut down. But she, like Dan, had some time to think about what could we do. And her clients, members, whatever you want to call them, were incredibly dedicated to their workouts because they love the way that the cycle, it's called cycle bar, way it operates. So she put out an offer where she will rent their bikes to people in their homes, deliver them to their homes, and then she conducts classes over, I don't think she uses Zoom, but a similar platform.
Okay.
And every single bike she had in the shop, except for 3, one for her and one for each of the other 2 instructors, are now in people's homes, and she's receiving a monthly rental for the bike, plus a very, very small charge for participating in the classes. And that's the only thing that has been able to help keep her semi afloat. But I thought it was brilliant. And like Dan was saying about the photographer, she's thinking that when things open up again, she's going to have this as an additional arm of her business, doing in-home training, as well as having people come right to her cycling studio. So it's that being creative, taking advantage of the whiteboard space that you have in front of you and figuring out what can we do differently.